This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's worst 250 so you don't have to.
I'm Michelle St. Clair.
I'm Abigail Ward.
And this week we watched Home Alone 3. Alex Pruitt, an 8-year-old boy living in Chicago, must fend off international spies who seek a top-secret computer chip in his toy car. Let's watch.
Pruitt.
That's his last name.
What a weird last name.
Yeah.
I was thinking about these screenwriters that are choosing surnames like inanely because it doesn't matter to the story, and I'm like, how do they choose them?
Yeah, I hate choosing names.
I hate choosing.
Yeah.
And
decisions are terrible.
I hate names. Why do we need labels, you know?
I mean, labels are good. Labels are excellent because then we know that that thing is that thing.
No,
Good
I'm
shit.
anti-label, which is why I'm anti-name. All right?
No one has a name?
I've said this many times. I just want us to get to a point in society where we're all floating orbs of energy that don't refer to each other at all, or even acknowledge each other. We just zoom around.
How would I refer to a specific one of your friends?
I wouldn't have friends. Neither would you.
Why?
You're just happy being yourself.
I
You're
like having
self-sufficient.
friends.
You're a little energy ball.
Yeah, but
I don't think you're understanding this world I'm building
humanity's
for you.
like sharing.
Currently it is.
We like sharing
My
things.
future, my utopian future, is all a me first attitude.
Well,
the me in question is a little ball of light and energy.
Well, you're going to find me as a ball of light rallying other people, and we're doing that thing where like one of us wears a beret, like we're clearly taking the accoutrement of rebellions from the 20th century.
You're all beatnik poets as well.
Exactly.
For sure. You're bohemians, but you're also activists, so you're the worst.
And we're going to, in the most like awful dialogue ever, try like fight against your system, saying like humanity's all like free love.
But the way that you guys speak, because you're little balls of energy and light, is like and everyone's like.
This is like an Aldous Huxley book. I think I read this one.
When they all rally around you, they're all zooming around in circles to concur. Yeah. And I'm there, the big ball of light and energy that's created this utopian, with heavy quotation marks, future. And I'm brooding and my colors are changing. I'm going red, I'm going dark, I'm going smoky.
The first full half of this book is just explaining the world. It's just explanation front to back.
Yeah.
And then the second half is like a short story that's not very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, not to jump ahead, is definitely similar to the film that we've done tonight. It's one of the notes I wrote.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, I just want us to move past needing physical bodies and having to have friends and relationships, I
agree with you on physical, having physical bodies is sometimes frustrating because I don't like it being, am I sad and having an existential crisis because I don't know my place in the world and I feel like I'm just an infinitesimally small speck, or am I hungry and need a banana?
It's usually the latter.
I know, and I hate that's fucked up.
You said to me a couple weeks ago, and I keep thinking about it every time I feel a certain way, is that like you said when you're tired, you think everyone hates you. And when you're hungry, you hate everyone.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is.
True.
Sometimes I'm like, I get so deeply, painfully sad. And then I look at the time and I'm like, it's 11:30. I'm probably just tired. Like, I'll feel better in the morning.
Exactly. Exactly. It's so true. I think every time I've exhausted myself, I then go into this mental space of everyone hates me and I'm awful at what I do and everything's overwhelming and I'm just the worst.
But that's fucked up. Like, you think fucking casserole before going to sleep is like everybody hates me, I'm having an existential crisis?
Casserole doesn't have a thought in her head at all times. Ever.
Yeah.
She just merely exists. She's so happy with herself.
It's like, sure, we get the brain that can produce art and poetry and wonderful humanity-based things, but also, like, that's a harsh trade-off.
Going back to my ball of energy and light.
Okay.
Vision for us as a race.
Back to the Huxley book.
I think like you'd also be able to manage your feelings and emotions more, like that. Like if you're just like a ball of energy and light, really you're just there to process, not to feel. You don't have anything that's going on in your life that would cause you to feel anything. You are just rational thoughts and reason.
This sounds like Elon Musk's dream, and thus
He's single?
I must spend my life trying to destroy it.
This is the day that you realize that you can't let me continue in the world, for I shall bring wrath and ruin.
No, during this conversation, I have a moment where I go, "Ugh," and I like, what happens is that I've actually traveled back in time, like from 30 years in the future. And so in this moment, I've just come back. So moving forward, I'm just suddenly embedded with the knowledge and consciousness of 30 years of you becoming a global dictator.
No,
and I'm
no.
like, this is the moment I could stop it.
No, yeah, you realize that you're a soldier waiting to kill me. You've remembered that you're from the future and you've been sent back in time, and it is your mission, it is your quest to kill me. You're like, oh, you see the next 30 years that's going to unfold, and you realize as you sit across the table that within the space of 2 weeks, it's your mission to kill me.
Wait, is this in a I'm the Terminator or I'm Sarah Connor? Like, which am I in this? Because I feel like I'm trying to say you're going to end the world, but I guess that would mean from your perspective, I'm the Terminator
Yes.
sent back to kill you.
Yes, you are.
Right.
You're the Terminator, and
No,
I'm John Connor.
to you, I'm the Terminator. To everyone else, you're Skynet.
I'll take that. That's fair. That's fair.
It's like that meme of like, how do you know? I feel like I don't see it as expressed anymore, but it always used to be like accompanied by images of the Joker from The Dark Knight with like, what if you're the only one who's sane and it's everyone else that's crazy? Huh? It's like that, but you think everyone else in the world is a villain.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's already my state of mind.
That's
I'm the hero and everyone's working against me. Maybe I'm just tired.
yeah, I think you're just tired. And we have a nap.
I haven't slept in 4 days.
All right, it's been 6.5 hours and we're resuming this podcast. Abby's had a nap. It's great.
I feel amazing. I feel incredible.
I love how to express your amazement. Listeners, you should see Abby's arm movements.
They're big and enormous to reflect the level of my happiness.
I would describe Abby's normal arms as dead armed while recording. But this
True, but you didn't need
this
to
is
say it.
active. Wow.
I'm now an active participant.
Yeah.
Going back to my ball of energy
Oh my
and
God.
light scenario, we wouldn't have to worry about dead arms or tiredness at all.
Speaking of wishing I had no worries, this week we watched Home Alone 3. You've watched Home Alone more than I have.
I love Home Alone.
I have seen Home Alone 1 once as an adult when you showed it to me, and I thought it was pretty good.
I love it.
And I never saw Donald Trump's greatest contribution to humanity, Home Alone 2.
Yeah. Home Alone 2 is not as good, but still a decent time.
Well, really, the presence of Trump could do that by itself.
It's like Home Alone 2 is just basically like the first one. Home Alone 1, he is left at home by his parents. They all go to France, and he has heaps of brothers and sisters and cousins that are over,
Yeah.
so he gets like lost. They get to France and they realize they've left Kevin behind.
Yeah.
Number 2 is about Kevin and his family going to New York and him getting left behind in New York.
Well, that's why it's Lost in New York,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
And they're both kind of like, the first one is just like, the first one is the best, but the second one has some really nice moments in it too.
Yeah.
The third one, I remember I watched as a kid.
Oh, really?
And I felt devastated because it was a new kid.
Yeah.
And I remember, again, children can be far more discerning than we think. And I remember as a kid, I was like 6 or 7 watching it. And I was like, wow, this is a notable drop in quality, guys. Come on.
Like,
And it's really hard because they recast.
yeah.
And I think no one liked the new kid.
No.
Like, sorry, but it's hard to live up to Macaulay Culkin. And
He's
this,
not
like,
as charming anyway.
He's not as charming. He's not as funny. And I was thinking, like, it's a tough fucking order to follow. Like, Macaulay Culkin... Sorry, it's a tough act to follow. Macaulay Culkin is, like, notably... Like, the charm of him is that he's, like, an adult, but he's a kid.
He's one of the best child stars we've had. There's, like, him, Shirley Temple,
It's his dry delivery.
and the Stranger Things kids.
Yeah.
That's my top 3.
And it's the jokes that were written for him in the first 2 films that made him so likable.
But-
He's like a little like adult, but as a boy. And there's heaps of scenes in the first 2 films that reflect that. So you're like giggling along because he's trying to be a big man, but really he's a small kid.
He had that in Uncle Buck too.
I loved Uncle Buck.
What I think worked about that is that feels more true to how little kids act.
Yes.
It's just that parents baby them.
Yeah.
So him being like, no, I'm a person, made it feel so much more truthful.
And because he's home alone, he's like, yeah, I'm a big man now. I'm an
Yeah.
adult. I'm going to go buy groceries, but they're going to fall out of my grocery bags because they're too heavy. And and I'm going to try and shave my face, but the aftershave stings my cheeks and I scream. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to watch old movies, but I'm going to eat ice cream all night because I'm an adult and I can do that now. It's just so charming. This film had none of that. This film is not in the same realm as Home Alone. It doesn't deserve to carry the title of Home Alone.
It really doesn't. It is entirely charmless. And
I think Home Alone is like perfect Christmas like viewing. I still watch it. I try to still watch it every Christmas.
yeah.
It's a good time.
It is a good time. I mean, I think I wrote down in my notes somewhere that this, yeah, it is one of the pieces of trivia I have that, like, this is the only Home Alone where it isn't set at Christmas.
Yeah.
Early on in the movie, the main villain mentions that it's January 8th. So it's just a time of year.
Yeah, it's not Christmas. It's just a winter film.
Yeah, it's just, it is cold in Chicago. That's the connection to Home Alone 1 and 2.
He's a child that is home alone at some points in the same city around the same
in
time
Chicago
of year.
while it's cold.
Yeah. The whole time I was watching this film or rewatching it, I was just thinking, like, what's Kevin doing right now?
Yeah.
Like, I want to see his story again.
Where's Kevin? I'm
Where's
sure
Kev?
he's just leading a normal life, you know. I mean, he would have been like a teenager at this point, right? So
I think the first Home Alone was like 1993.
no, it was like 1990.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
that would have been 8 years on. So he probably would have been in high school,
Yeah.
smoking weed or not.
Maybe
being a good boy.
Maybe since he's in like that John Hughes world, maybe he would have done that thing that was in 80s sitcoms where he smoked weed and then he looked at our protagonist and then went, "You want some, man?" And then
He's
like
that
holds
kid.
it in a way that no one actually holds a joint. Hey, want some of a doobie, bro?
So he's the side character in a different John Hughes.
Yeah.
I love that.
What I think John Hughes could have done with is a universe.
Yes.
You know?
I mean, I think he had that. John Hughes films have such a keen, like, feel and vibe to them.
Yes.
And this film didn't have that, but it almost did. It had all the pieces of that. It just didn't have, like, the heart and the warmth that you'd usually get out of a John Hughes film.
No, it was definitely derivative. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Like Uncle Buck and, like, Pretty in Pink.
I
and,
really
like,
liked Uncle Buck
I
when you
love
showed
Uncle
it to
Buck.
me. I
Planes,
really
Trains,
enjoyed
and
it.
Automobiles.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, because he's so Chicago obsessed, you really can imagine that all these people are neighbors.
Chicago. Hey.
The Windy City.
Ah, Chicago.
Deep dish.
Ah, forgot about it.
I'm eating here.
Ah, deep dish pizza, huh? Ah, Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan. Yeah, I love America.
But yeah. Sorry, I just blanked there for a second.
You've never seen an impression so good.
Never. I've never fully understood. I've been to Chicago and that was like revisiting it all over again.
Yeah. What was more Chicago, me or Home Alone 3?
Do you want to give us the overview?
Carefully dodging the question. Yeah, I'll give you the overview. In Hong Kong, 4 internationally wanted spies working for a North Korean terrorist organization steal a $10 million microchip, putting it inside of a remote-controlled car to sneak it past security at the San Francisco International Airport. 8-year-old Alex Pruitt is given the remote control car by Hess for shoveling her driveway. He returns home and discovers that he has chickenpox and must stay out of school. The next day, whilst home alone, Alex discovers the spies while spying on his neighbors. After 2 failed attempts at reporting them, Alex attaches a camera to the remote control car and uses it to spy on them, leading to the spies chasing it when they spot it. Wondering what they want with the toy car, Alex opens it and discovers the stolen chip, informing the Air Force of its presence. The spies finally realize that Alex has been watching them and decide to break into his house. Alex rigs the house with booby traps and with help from his pet rat and his brother's loudmouth parrot, the 4 spies break in, spring the traps, and suffer various injuries. While they pursue Alex around the house, he flees and rescues Hess, but the head spy, Mr. Borper, ambushes Alex, but the latter uses a bubble gun resembling a Glock to scare him off. Soon the FBI agents arrive and arrest the 4 spies. Later, the Pruitts, the FBI agent, and Hess celebrate with the father returning home from a business trip while Alex's house is being repaired. Yeah, what really struck me about this one, when I think of Home Alone, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, the 2 small town burglars, and he's trying to fight them off. And then this one begins, and there's international spies stealing a North Korean missile chip. It's fucking nuts.
The Home Alones are like low-scale villains.
Yes.
And it's very funny and friendly and warm and family-friendly.
Yeah.
This was just preposterous.
This really escalated the tension.
And yet, it de-escalated the tension in the process. Because you could never really believe these people were that threatening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it starts off and it's like it's such a like sinister first 10 minutes setting up these like international spies, stealing a microchip, losing it at the airport, and then we cut to like little Alex and his little Chicago home. And he's every American boy.
It wasn't played like a kid's movie. The first 5 minutes are played like it's the beginning of Die Hard.
Yeah, like it's Die Hard 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. The tone is all over the place.
It was such a bonkers opening, and it really didn't match the rest of it. And as you said, like, because they're meant to be international spies, the FBI agent at the end mentions that the head guy, Mr. Borper, has been on the run for 9 years. I'm like, I refuse to believe that they fall into some of these traps.
Yeah, 100%.
That this child is outwitting them.
Also, like, my whole thoughts about the structure of this film is that, as I mentioned earlier, it really feels like the first half of the film is setting up the spies, them being in Alex's life, Alex finding out about them, not being sure what to do, trying to get people to believe him, no one believing him, and then the second half of the film is him being like, okay, this is my home, and the rest of the film is him setting traps and defending it, like the first two films.
Yeah.
It came too late.
Way too late.
The gimmick came too late. Like, we enjoy watching him, like, deflect the robbers, but, like, they don't interact for the first half of the film at all.
The first half is bad Rear Window.
Yeah.
And, like, when it was the first day where he spots them, I'm like, oh, and then the day just like ends and the parents come home. I'm like, wait, is this it? Is this going to be the format? It's going to be just several days of him observing?
He's home alone for one afternoon. That's it.
Well, he's home alone for 3 days. He's home alone the first afternoon and then the second day.
Yeah, but his mum is always back.
Yeah, his mum's always back.
Yeah, she comes back and she's like, oh, you, I don't believe you didn't see anything. But the actual instance where they're trying to get into the house and he's home alone is one afternoon.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours tops.
The whole premise of the first two films is that he's alone for multiple days at a time trying to be a man, trying to grow up.
In this, he has chicken pox, and that's the framing device for why he's home alone, but it means that there's constant adult supervision.
Yeah.
I didn't come to Home Alone for adult supervision, boy.
This fucking film was 1998, right? 1997.
I'm pretty sure it was 97.
America in the 90s is just like such a particular time.
Yeah.
It still had like the innocence of the 80s in a lot of ways, which is weird because when I think about it, 80s and 90s feel like they were also the most like violent and dangerous decades within America, just in terms of crime rates and statistics.
Yeah.
But also that it kept churning out this wholesome family content.
Yeah.
Mainly spurred on by John Hughes a lot of the time as well.
Yeah.
But like it was like this like innocent age just before the dawn of technology, I guess, where everyone was wearing big knitted sweaters and it always looked chilly and everyone was always thinking about what they were going to do after high school. Like, yeah,
at that point 14-year-olds were, playing in the streets instead of going, do I join the Nazis or do I fight them? It's really a shift in culture over time. Also, I wasn't expecting this to be a secret Scarlett Johansson movie.
Yeah.
Her as a teenager.
What the fuck? She plays his older sister and I didn't recognize her in the first shot when she was like doing her homework. And then the second time I saw her, I was like, what the fuck?
It's her first major film role.
No way.
Yeah.
This is like, 1997. God.
She sticks out like a sore thumb when the rest of the cast is there. In part because we recognize her. I acknowledge that. But just also in just screen presence, even like everyone else is like, you look like anyone.
I was reading the other day that Scarlett Johansson in like 2018 and 2019 was like the highest paid actress of like in all of America. No, in the entire world. And like apparently she's like listed 9th as like the best paid actress ever.
Yeah.
Ever. She's made like $15 billion in profits or something.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, it's always one of those things, like, the way that they track that is sometimes odd. Like, she is well paid, but I remember there was a year where technically the highest grossing actor of the year was Ken Jeong, and that was because he was in The Hangover and Transformers 3. He was in each of them for less than 5 minutes total, but
That's amazing.
He was technically the highest grossing actor of the year.
True, but she's just been many. I wouldn't doubt this though. At the same time, I think Scarlett Johansson is like one of the most successful and well-known actresses from America ever.
Well, especially since, famously she's not limited to just roles of white women.
That's a different discussion.
She takes whatever she can get.
True. Yeah, she was the only familiar face in this very lackluster cast.
Yeah. Except there was also Neil Flynn.
Yeah.
He was there for a moment.
Yeah.
As one of the cops who, in my opinion, came to kill. Because they show up to an old woman's house. They've heard that there is a burglar on the premise. They're like,
to kill.
Oh, there's a burglar. What do we do? And there's like 8 of them come and they fucking kick down the door. And I don't mean like it comes off its hinges.
Yeah.
And they're fully ready to shoot and kill. Like, they were very prepared.
Well, so this little Alex is his name, right?
Alex.
He wants to be a cop. Like, that's cute. But, like, how can I relate to a character that just wants to be, like, he wants to be a pig? ACAB. Alex, read the room.
Read the room, Alex Pruitt.
24 years on, read the room.
Well, hey, it was still an issue in the 90s too.
True. It's just that now we're, white people care too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the difference.
I keep seeing people like pulling up, especially black comedians, like sketches of them referring to cops shooting them. And they're like, it was a thing in the 90s too. And it's like, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I thought it was so wild. Like, this movie is filled with a lot of things where it'll be like played fully straight. Like I said, it the beginning plays like an action movie. They're being really genuine with it, like it's any other movie. And then the cops will show up and then burst down a door, and then they'll see a dog, and then something will go boy, oi, 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 oi.
Yeah. It's Die Hard meets any family film from the 90s, really. I don't even want to say Home Alone because it didn't do a good enough job for me to actually list that as a reference.
Barely Home Alone. It was a 20-minute short of Home Alone.
Yeah, with a 1-hour build-up.
Of Bad Rear Window.
Yes. So, this new family-friendly film we're coming out with, kids' film, Rear Window meets Die Hard.
What would have improved it is if instead of having the chicken pox, he was in a wheelchair and we see him constantly wheeling around everywhere.
The Simpsons did that, so...
Yeah.
And it worked a treat.
That's one of the better episodes.
I always think about that shot where they're like, oh, look, he's watching, and it's Bart at the window with that telescope watching from his wheelchair, and he just drops the blinds in his room. That's how I felt for the entirety of lockdown, looking out my window.
What were you looking at out the window?
Remember how there was that DJ guy across the window, across the street that would play, and some people would like mill around on the street to listen to it? I would just sit at the window and watch and listen, and then eventually just drop the blinds.
I distinctly remember the time that the DJ was there. I can't remember what you were doing, but Brooke and I were home. We were playing Street Fighter 2 on the semi-working Pi station.
And I told you that the guy was out there.
Yeah, and then we went and we sat out on the chairs for a little while, just on the front porch thing, and listened to it. It was great.
That was the way that you could... That was the only way you could hang out.
It's a really unifying moment.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
No, it was really nice.
It's a really nice memory. And then
Humans change so quickly, by the way. We adapt so quickly.
Yeah.
Because, 6 months ago, we were deep in lockdown.
Yeah.
Deep into it. And we'd been there for a couple of weeks and life felt grim.
Yeah.
And now 6 months later, we're out of it. And it's been a bumpy road out of it. But I've already forgotten what lockdown was like. I've already forgotten what it's like to have to wear a mask all day. I think humans are, in general, we're very adaptable. That's our problem. We don't remember our mistakes.
I feel like part of it, though, you still work at home. And you were working the whole time, whereas both Brooke and I went through large periods of not really working last year. And so there was just this sense of I don't know, you couldn't get up and be like, I'm going to look for jobs, or I'm going to get up and go here and do something. You just get up and you go, now what?
Yeah, that's true. I was very busy throughout lockdown. I was so lucky.
Yeah, I just had nothing to do. I was just desperately trying to get anyone to give me work, but they were like, there's no work to give.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But you know what else is crazy?
What? Tell me.
The thing that for me was the most notable part of this movie is that Alex Pruitt is fucking strong. He is a strong little boy. We see him when he's setting up the traps, right? He is he's taking like the pool stairs, he's wrenching them off, and like he's giving it fucking torque, right? He's really wrenching at it. We see some of the traps he's constructed involve moving huge floorboards made of solid timber, and like unnailing things, as well as lifting all these heavy objects. At one point, we see one of the robbers is trying to come after him, and he closes a door. It looks to us as if he's just closing it quickly, not like slamming it. And the guy goes flying back.
Yeah.
I'm like, this little boy managed to make this full-grown man go flying back. This is a secret origin story.
True. I will say, his traps were never as inventive as Kevin's. And also, in the original film, Kevin's like, his traps would cause other issues later. So like, even in this, there was a tiny bit of like cause and effect where like he was like, his feet were stuck in cement pots. Like a lot of the time the robbers would get hurt and then they just get back up and they're fine. They're normal. Whereas in the first one, he would like set a trap and then that trap would cause the person to go into the next trap, or then it would cause them to fail at something they need to do. Like it was really clever the way that Kevin's traps would work.
Yeah.
In this one, they were all inane.
Well, but that's the thing, is that Kevin, his superpower is that he's a genius. Alex is super strength.
Yes.
He could brute force it. For example, by doing things like dropping several full terracotta pots from 2 stories high onto the woman's head. She's dead, right? Like
I thought she died. So you know when
she
like,
had to
gets,
have.
She gets into that puddle. She like she gets through a gate.
Yeah.
And she's suddenly stuck. Her legs are stuck in this thick muddy puddle. And then she can't get them out, and she looks up and a terracotta pot hits her on the head, and she slumps forwards and her face hits the mud. And I was like, she's gonna drown.
Well, yeah.
She's passed out face first in a fucking puddle of mud.
And it's not a small pot too. It's like a full-size pot, which again, that would cave her skull in,
like,
and then she
gone.
falls face forward.
We just
She's
watched
dead.
a death
She's out.
Unseen.
Alex Pruitt is a murderer.
That's actually the name of the Netflix spin-off that I'm doing, coming out next year. Do you feel like Netflix now keeps coming out with these like very eye-catching names like that?
Yes.
Where it's like Jason Tucker Must Die, which granted that was 20 years ago, but that was innovative, and that was heralding in this new era of having names like I'm Not Okay With This.
Yeah.
And Why Are You Like This? And Please Like Me. All these shows have started coming out with these like very like long questions as names.
It's because they're trying to make you go like, oh, I like Netflix because there's this cool, brand new, engaging content.
Yeah.
And then, there's no need to make a season 2 because there's another one. There's just another one they could make.
Yeah.
And then they can go like, well, this one was made 30 years ago and we didn't make it, but it's new to Netflix. Wow.
So yeah, I'll say Alex Pruitt is a fucking murderer. That's my new Netflix show coming out next year. Make sure to stay tuned.
Well, actually, that makes sense because that's probably why he wanted to become a cop.
Full circle, baby. This
Hell
is actually quite a smart little look into the psychopathic tendencies that young men adapt because they think they're right. He watched the way the cops broke into that house after he first reported.
On the streets of Chicago.
And that's how he is now. It's affected him. It's not right, but it is a realistic look into how men are raised these days. And I appreciated it. 10 out of 10.
I will narrate it. I'll be like, hey, on the streets of Chicago, huh?
Yeah, deep dish. Wind.
And strong little boys.
Strong little boys.
He is a strong little boy.
Who is this narrator? I need to arrest him. Like ACAB, but also, do your job.
You can't catch me. He's always narrating it live.
On the streets of Chicago.
On the streets of Chicago. Wow. Hey, get out.
I went to Chicago when I was 15. And I went to all of the places that The Untouchables was filmed. The train station, the cafe that blows up at the beginning. Spoilers. I saw a baseball game at Wrigley Field. Incredible. I got deep dish from the best deep dish place in town. I went to see all the comedy sports up on the north side.
Wow.
Where like people from like Whose Line Is It Anyway got their start.
Yeah, like Second City.
And then
Mike
I went
Nichols.
up to Glencoe, which is where all the John Hughes films were filmed. And they're all those huge white mansions full of very pretty white people with tiny little coffee shops and a train that heads into the city because it's like an hour out where they punch holes into your tickets. There's a man that walks down with a little cap and he'll punch your ticket. And I looked at it and I looked at my ticket and I was like, this is gibberish.
Does he
This
ask?
is nonsense. I don't think he knows what he's doing.
Does he ask if anyone wants a hot
Chocolate.
Hot chocolate. And then he and several of his friends dance around. But you can't quite tell why yet because you're still a child. It really upsets you.
I know every line to that song.
It's crazy.
Oh, we got it. Hot, hot, yes, we got it. Hot, hot, yes, we've got it. Hot chocolate.
That scene as a kid upset me, and as an adult disturbs me.
The Polar Express is also an annual film I'll watch for Christmas, and it doesn't make sense.
There's parts of it that I'm like, this is charming. Like the scene where he starts to hear the bells.
I can hear it.
It's genuinely really sweet.
Yeah.
A hot chocolate with this little boy dressed like he's 60 years old.
It's so fun.
It's terrifying.
It's so fun.
It sends a chill to my core.
I always freaked out at the scene on top of the train where he meets another Tom Hanks, because the film is full of Tom Hankses. They are all Tom Hanks.
The Tom Hankses.
Yeah. And like he's on top of the train with the homeless Tom Hanks, who's like making coffee out of a pot.
Oh, the one that's secretly Santa or whatever? Yeah.
And he's like, seeing is believing. And then he jumps off the train. It's wild. It was a lot for me. I couldn't process it as a kid.
If it was Alex Pruitt, he would have been pushed.
Also, just by the way, really quickly, at the end of Polar Express, the best and worst bit of that whole film is that Josh Groban sang the song for the end, and it went, and I still remember the song. Believe in what your heart is saying. Hear the melody that's playing. And I remember when I was like 8, that song captured me, and I would put it on, I'd stare forlornly out my window to it. It was a bit fucked. Polar Express was the darkest phase of my life.
The only reason I don't outright hate Josh Groban is because he was in one episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and was genuinely pretty fun.
It was very funny.
Yeah, he was. And I'm like, all right, he has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
All right, that's fun. But yeah, these...
Polar Express over Home Alone 3 any day, though. Any day.
Well, yeah, that's
it's unquestionable.
But these, just to get back before we move on, like some of these traps, like I said, the terracotta pot is deadly. There's also another point where... Do you remember the bit he falls? The one who looks like he skis in the Alps and is really snippy about it? Yeah, okay, cool. He falls over and then, like, it turns out that there's actually, like, a hole in the floor or something. And suddenly it feels like we're transported into a completely unbuilt part of the house. And he slams through what looks like 4 to 6 floors of just plain pine wood rooms. What's happening? It's like he falls into a hell dimension. This house is 2 stories high.
The house has a dumbwaiter, by the way.
It does.
There's a bit where like he's running up to the top of the house and he gets into a dumbwaiter and he takes it to the bottom. And by the way, later, the woman who we thought had died in that puddle of mud, who miraculously just was summoned back to life.
Yeah.
And we don't see how, she's suddenly just on her feet again.
Yeah.
Her name's Alice Ribbons, great name. She, like the character is, and I don't know why they gave them full names, but Alice Ribbons is fun.
Who knows?
She finds the dumbwaiter at the top of the attic. And she's like, I'm going to get you. And she opens the door and she just puts herself into it and falls all the way to the bottom, not understanding.
No thoughts in her head.
I'm pretty sure we saw her look down into it and went, yep, that's mine. That's
and
for me.
Later when we see her legs are mangled and twisted.
Yeah.
Like she's paraplegic, but also dead.
Yes.
Like she's fully dead.
There's also that bit where like the longer haired robber, like he's got like the long brown hair.
Yeah.
And he looks kind of like goofy.
He looks like he's in a comedy rock band.
And he looks like he's a more attractive version of Kramer if Kramer also played bass for some jazz fusion band in New York City.
Yeah.
Whoever he is. There's a bit where like he's like covered in this like white paint and powder. It got up his nose. He almost like suffocated.
Yeah.
And he gets down to the basement. His feet are stuck in like little tubs of cement, so he can't even move. And then he falls onto his butt and basically the pipes above him, he shoots a pipe above him and liquid shit just falls all over his head.
Fully liquid shit falls.
That for me was where the film got out of hand. It was the liquid shit.
Well, for me, it was the wooden hell dimension. Again, it's 2 stories with a basement, and we see him slam through at least 5 floors.
He's actually broken through a portal where he's just slamming into never-ending wooden floors.
All of them look identical. If you tell me Alex Pruitt summoned a repetitive portal, like a recursive portal, I would believe you.
See, I actually, for some reason, can't remember when this wooden floor dimension occurred for you. But the sounds that I'm hearing in my head as I'm imagining the ski man falling through these floors is the sound that is made when in Croc, Legend of the Gobos, little Croc with his little backpack gets on top of a wooden crate and he goes, whoopee! And he like jumps into the air and he slams it and it goes That's how I hear it. I didn't
Croc had good noises.
make that noise very well. But if you've played Croc, guys, if you're listening and you loved Croc, Legend of the Gobbos, which you now realize is a slightly strange name, it almost sounds like a euphemism. I mean, it definitely is a euphemism
Or Croc
now.
2, which didn't have a subtitle, but I liked it.
If you remember that noise, email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com to rate my impression.
Well, I also liked all the Crash Bandicoot ones. Like, wow! That's always a good one.
Yeah.
Every time he gets a Wumpa fruit, instead of it being like, bing, it's ooga booga.
And there was also, Croc would just be like, wow-wee!
Yeah, that's a good one.
Whoopah! And then the little crystals would be like, hoink, 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 hoink. I can't do it.
These
and then
are
the
good.
little gobbos would be like,
Yeah. This is good shit. I also remember in Zelda, every time he would like attack, he's like,
these little noises. If I heard like the sound of a crystal being picked up in Croc, just in everyday life, if I heard that, I'd just be like transported back to being like 6 years old playing on my fucking PC. It's very evocative.
See, I always played Sonic more than anything. We were a Sonic Sony household, so every time someone refers to Nintendo properties, I'm like, there's 1 out of 10 I'll get.
Yeah.
But Sonic was fucking so good when it came to noises. The Mega Drive sound chip was so fucking good.
Fuck, I really just like triggered the nerd within Michelle.
So good. Fucking excellent shit.
I played Need for Speed 2.
Hey, that was a fun one.
Brim brim. It was a good one.
I didn't play Need for Speed 2. I played Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which was on the PS3. That was
Need for Speed 2, the final level was like this futuristic level. And everything was like lit up and it was like you're in space and like it was such a good level. You would try really hard to get to it. It was quite smart.
I had Burnout 3 Takedown on the because Need for Speed 2 was on PS2, right?
Yeah. No, I had it on PC, so I'm not sure. But
whatever.
probably was.
Burnout 3 was on PS2 and it was still maybe the best car game I've ever played.
I think I played that with you.
So fun.
Or was it Burnout 4 that I played with you?
No, we played Burnout Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
Which was the first one since Burnout 3 to be like Burnout 3.
Yeah.
But then also open world. But
I love driving games. And like when I had Mafia 2, which was actually very story heavy, what I preferred to do was get the best possible car or rather hijack it and then go on a rampage for like 3 hours. That was the way I played Mafia 2.
That's
and it
really
paid off.
the way that most people play Grand Theft Auto style games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except Mafia had like a good, decent story, I think.
Yeah.
From memory. Anyway, we're off topic.
One extra, just one last burglar trap I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
After the guy falls through like his wooden hell dimension.
Never-ending croc noises.
Yeah, there's also a bit right where he sees like legs dangling. Oh, this must be when he's still at the top.
Yeah,
He sees legs dangling and he grabs them and then it's, what is it? Like a fucking lawnmower or something? Something very blade driven.
So
heavy.
He just gets into the house after his like debacle trying to get inside. He gets in first.
Where they get electrocuted by the mains voltage. They're both dead.
Yeah. But he makes it inside. Alice has been hit in the head and she's passed out in a puddle.
Yeah.
The other two have been electrocuted and should also have been left for dead. This guy makes it in and he literally he sees legs hanging off the side and he thinks it's the kid, but it's a monkey, like a stuffed monkey. And he grabs the legs, he pulls it down, and in doing so, pulls the lawnmower that comes at him with like 5 blades. And all we see is his face looking straight at the blades of a lawnmower. And then we hear like, ah! But then he's fine.
It just somehow manages to cut his head, but it's a full active lawnmower that is on. It's so heavy and it's going to land. Even if it just landed on his head and it was off, he's dead.
My
he's a dead man.
lost an eye to a lawnmower, and not even in that circumstance. A rock just flicked out of it and took his whole eye out. Those things are deadly.
I used to think about that all the time.
It's nuts. His glass eye was terrifying. He could always tap it for me, and I hated it.
Well, I always joke to Brooke about popping my eyes out. I just stick my finger near my eye. You know, like when you go like with your finger in your mouth? Yeah, I do that, but as if I'm doing it with my eye. And
so you're going to recite the entirety of Lollipop, Lollipop, oh, lolly, 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 lollipop, and then you flick your eyeball out. Boom, boom, boom. Let it dangle out of the socket.
That is a joke I would do.
Yeah. If you could, you would. You can't, so you shan't.
Do you want to hear some trivia?
Fuck yeah.
IMDb trivia.
I got a lot of trivia for this.
Oh, interesting.
We had been approaching a drought of trivia, and then we hit Home Alone 3.
We went over these barren wastelands so we could find this oasis.
Culkin, director Chris Columbus, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, and Kieran Culkin all refused to do a third film.
Yes. Wait, was Kieran Culkin in the first two?
Yeah, he plays his like cousin or something.
No way. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Does
But I don't
make
know
sense.
why I never noticed him being there because I love Kieran Culkin. Also, him in Succession. Oh, Succession is so good. You should watch Succession.
I'm
Oh.
so glad that he's had this like it started with like
Renaissance.
Igby Goes Down or something, and then he
Yeah.
was in Scott Pilgrim.
He was in Signs as a kid.
He was in Signs.
pretty
But
good.
that was as a kid. I'm talking about as a grown
okay,
up.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
he was excellent as Wallace.
at one point Home Alone 3 was going to be Kieran Culkin now, but then he said he couldn't live up to his brother. So he didn't do it. And I'd say now he's exceeded his brother, but we don't need to rank them.
So they just refused to watch it.
Well, Kieran Culkin refused to do it for that reason. Macaulay said that since he was a teenager, he was bored of it.
Yeah.
Chris Columbus's excuse was he wanted to give it to another director. He just didn't want to do it. And Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern said that they wanted other opportunities. All of them refused.
That's smart. Also, Chris Columbus went on to do the first two Harry Potters. He was right.
He was fine, yeah.
He didn't need this film.
This was, because of Chris Columbus refusing, the directorial debut of Raja Gosnell, who previously edited Home Alone and Home Alone 2.
Right.
Which means that there is a disturbing trend of editors turning into directors and being on this list, and I hope to be a triumphant third.
I was going to make a joke about editors turning to directors, and I was just like, oh, read the room. Not the right audience.
Hi. Tim Curry, Christopher Lloyd, Alan Rickman, and Liam Neeson were considered for the role of Mr. Borper.
Oh my God. And it went to unknown.
No,
Who the fuck was that guy?
he was in Burn After Reading. What was his fucking name? Oleg Krupa. Oleg Krupa. He was in Burn After Reading. He was from the Russian embassy, and he was like, we are not interested in dribble.
Yeah.
He's a Polish actor.
Right.
Similarly, for Alice, both Courtney Cox and Sandra Oh were considered.
Oh my God.
This says considered. I think it makes more sense that all 6 of those people didn't want to do it.
I think it was that they declined.
Yeah.
They were considered, and it didn't pan out.
I didn't list them because there's too many. There is a larger amount of continuity errors listed for this film than any other film on the list so
Oh
far.
my God.
There's just an
can
outrageous
imagine.
amount of continuity errors.
I can imagine.
When Borper corners Alex, When Borper corners Alex, he speaks in Polish, and I won't repeat it because the Polish language is really difficult to just phonetically say out loud.
When I was 10, I wanted to be interesting, so I pretended I could speak Polish. I had a friend called Jethro, and I straight up lied to him and said I could speak Polish. And then he would be like, oh, speak it. And I would literally just say gibberish.
Yeah.
And I kept that up for a good year.
Wow.
It didn't impress him.
What he said means, I'll crush you like a cockroach, where's the disc? Which is a slip-up by the Polish actor Oleg Krupa, speaking in Polish instead of English, as well as a factual error that they were looking for a chip, not a disc.
Nice.
Part of the reason I saved that was because it being listed as an error of him speaking in Polish leads me to believe that he was meant to be someone who was native English, but his Polish accent just slips through way harder.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, because the rest of them are American, but he was obviously not.
He was very Polish.
Although the woman I thought for a second wasn't American. She confused me.
I think she's just posh American.
Right. Okay.
These last 3, there were so many weird. I feel like this must have been a meme at some point because there were some really weird trivia pieces. I saved this one because I got something wrong. Haviland Morris, who played Alex's mother in the film, is a natural redhead. Scarlett Johansson, who played her daughter in the film, is actually a brunette, but has left it coloured red for most of her film career once her teen years were over. Catherine O'Hara played Macaulay Culkin's mother in Home Alone and Home Alone 2, also has red hair, a tribute to the first 2 films. Now, when I read that, I was like, what the fuck is this talking about? Catherine
a tribute
O'Hara
to the first films?
Well, I was
it's
also
not a
like,
tribute.
Catherine O'Hara doesn't have red hair, and
She did in the
Scarlett Johansson doesn't have coloured red hair. And
Scarlett Johansson's she's usually blonde.
Yeah.
At this point, she's most often blonde.
It's just this piece of trivia
Is nuts.
is just crazy.
Someone had too much time on their hands and was on IMDb too often.
I love this one. This was my favorite piece of trivia because of, I just imagine writing it. The injuries to the 4 spies suffered in the film toward the end are related to the 4 elements.
Earth.
Unger
Water.
is electrocuted, which made his suit burn. Fire. Jernigan sprayed with freezing
Avatar, The
hoses.
Last Airbender?
Water. Alice is covered in dirt after several incidences in mud. Earth. And Borpa has black paint in his face coming from a gas-powered spray can.
And that's when the Fire Nation attacked. What the fuck?
And then a similar piece of trivia. Borpa is choleric. Alice is sanguine. Jernigan is melancholic. And Unger is phlegmatic. You know, trivia.
What the fuck?
It's just... Who wrote these? It's just my favorite trivia to read through because it was just a series of everyone saying no and then people writing the absolute most wild bullshit. Do you want to hear some reviews?
I would love to hear some reviews.
Reviews!
Okay, so I got one critic review that I think you're going to like. A rare positive review came from Chicago film critic Roger Ebert, who called it
Roger
the
Ebert.
best of the Home Alone films and that it was far better than the first one. It was also the only Home Alone movie he liked since he gave the first 2 negative reviews. Gene Siskel nearly fell off his chair in disbelief at hearing this.
What the fuck? I've always trusted Roger Ebert inherently. What the fuck is he talking about? What the fuck? I will admit, there's some things that this film does well. I actually don't think it's bad enough to be lower than the other films we've watched thus far. I enjoyed some bits of this too much. It didn't hurt me physically to watch it. Again, Sex and the City 2 is a new bar and I didn't want to physically harm myself whilst watching the film. It had a couple of things right. The fact that they set up Alex as a character, even though he sucked as a character, they set up things about him kind of well. And that he's very resourceful. He makes little things for himself to like help around the house. Like it proves that he's like industrious and can manufacture things. And also like, even though it only started halfway through the film where he's like, I have to protect my house, it did feel like a midpoint. It
did.
just felt like a bad midpoint.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell that the people that had their hands on this had a sense and notion of structure and how to make a film.
Yeah.
However, the audacity of this prick to say this was better than the first 2 Home Alones.
Not just better, the best of the Home Alone. Far better.
He's dead to me.
Now, here's 2 IMDb reviews. The first one, this movie was great, by Ginger77227.
So many gingers.
Wow, it was such a good movie. It was hilarious. Alex D. Linz was so cute and small and such a good actor.
He's so cute and small.
Better than Machuli Who? Maybe the adults didn't like it because they are boring to me and I'm 13. So is Alex.
Same.
So is Alex. Tee-hee-hee. Overall, it was just a great movie. Anything with Alex D. Linz is a good movie.
I am just 13. Adults are boring and I'm just 13.
Here's another one titled Home Alone 3 by Alex_Veroff24. I liked this movie very much because it was funny and always kept you guessing who was going to get whacked over the head with something next. I really like it when movies do that to people. I also liked it that this movie had a really good ending. The bad guys going to jail and the good guy, being this case Alex, getting what he thought he rightfully earned. Respect! Respect is not given, it is earned. And I think this movie really helps you see what that is really all about. I think a lot more movies should be this way in the future. More laughs and less pain. Old-fashioned fun is what I'm all about. I think all people are like that at some point in their life. 10 out of 10.
Go off. Respect is earned.
This movie's about respect. I like it when people get hit in the
I'm glad
head.
someone dug a theme out of this mess because this had no theme. This had no purpose.
Completely themeless.
At least with Home Alone, it had like the theme around like needing your family and like it's Kevin realizing that he isn't ready to grow up yet. He still needs his family around him. That's his journey. That's his arc.
Yeah.
That's the way he changes. He's like, I want to be a big guy and I'm getting forgotten by my family. My family don't love me. I want to be an adult. I wish they would all go. And then he has that wish granted, but he spends the whole film realizing that he does need his family. He's not ready to grow up.
Yeah, and
And it's great.
What's
It
the
works.
character's name? Kevin.
Kevin.
Yeah, and then
Is it
his
Kevin McAllister? I think
Kevin
that's his name.
McAllister. Yeah, and then his mum in the airport is like, "Oh my God, we've lost Kevin.
Kevin.
Kevin,
My little baby.
oh my baby Kevin,
Oh, I must fly home to Chicago to find Kevin.
go to Chicago to see Kevin."
David, will you come with me to Chicago?
I think Home Alone 3 could have done with Moira Rose.
Any movie could do with Moira Rose and a little bit of Alexis.
We've both expressed having problems with Schitt's Creek, but the characters really are very fun to watch.
My problems just lie with the resolution. And the first season took far too long to pick up. Even the second season, I actually think that show is quite riddled with flaws. It's just that
it is riddled with
It's a
flaws.
great character exploration at its peak.
It's also praised for diversity, but it's like Clinton-style diversity. Like,
It's a white gay man that is cis.
it's two white gay men, and that's the full extent of the representation. both sexual and ethnic.
Yeah.
So what is your rating for Home Alone 3?
What's the rating on IMDb? Is it still 4.5?
No, I think we're in the...
I think it is 4.5.
It's 4.5, yeah.
Yeah. Look, honestly.
Fuck.
Oh, yeah.
It's...
Fuck me up. Thought you could get away with this one, did ya? Not on my watch.
Abigail!
Honestly, I think I'd give it like a solid... I'm trying to like think of it on a scale. I remember last week I was so fed up with Taxi. I was like 0.
Yeah.
Fuck this. Today I'm coming at this with reason, practicality. I enjoyed some bits of it. Didn't find it difficult to watch. I think it did some things right in terms of the craft of screenwriting. I reckon I will give it a solid 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I think you're being really generous.
I think it wasn't the worst thing. I think this was a lot better than a lot of other things we've watched. Far better.
In my overall rating, this is definitely in the would watch on a bad movie night camp.
Oh.
I think it's the same amount of bad as Taxi, honestly, because
Maybe my emotions got in the way last week.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of this movie, so much of it, someone will get hit, and it really will be like coconuts together. Boink, boy, yo, 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 yo.
Yeah.
Wow, wow. At one point, the guy, again, they're presented as international spies, and in the beginning, they're like, we are super cool and serious. And then they'll with their mouths, will go, wow, 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 ah. Like, I hate this. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give it the same rating of a 4.
Nice.
It really does deserve a 4.
I think you're being generous.
I am being generous.
Which is a very sexy power move.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's very sexy of me.
That's very sexual of you to do.
It is very sexy of me. That was Home Alone 3. What are we watching next week?
Next week, we are watching the 1996 film Striptease.
Oh, with Demi Moore, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. How did you know that Demi Moore? Have you seen? It's got Demi Moore in it. Did you know that?
I did.
1996 film Demi Moore.
Oh, yeah,
If you
that's so
haven't heard of it,
interesting.
I'm pretty into it.
Well, I'm excited. And don't forget to follow us on social media if you can. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram under Rating Descending.
Or you can find us personally. You can find me on Insta under Abigail J. Ward.
And me as Michelle St. Clair.
And don't forget to drop us a review on Apple Podcasts. It makes a difference and you'll be a fucking legend if you do.
Bye.
Fuck off now.
Fuck off.
Go get your fucking chips in you.
Get your... Yeah, no, I'll just cut where you
Geordie
said.
Shore, why yeah.
Why yeah. Why yeah.
That's how we say goodbye now.
Or to do a Captain Toad.
Or to just do a Charlotte from Geordie Shore. I love Gary, but it'll never work.
No!